Whakalawhalahi atu, I'm Esther Pavihi and welcome to our BCN Bulletin for tonight. A special welcome to our viewers from across the Pacific, thanks to our partners Pacifica TV. Leading the news tonight, there is still no announcement as to when the country will go to the polls. Earlier this week, the Speaker of the Assembly, Hima Douglas, confirmed that he has informed the Niue Assembly at their meeting last week of Prime Minister Tagilangi's intention for the 18th Assembly to serve the full 3 years from the date of the last general elections, which was on the 29th of April 2023. Speaker Douglas confirmed to BCN News that he will announce the date when the Assembly will be dissolved on the 8th of March at their next sitting. Here's more. In other countries, the date of the general elections is usually a very important news item during an election year. For example, New Zealand will be going to the polls on the 7th of November this year. However, here in Niue, we are still waiting for notice as to when the general elections will take place. Once the date for dissolving the Niue Assembly has been announced, the Speaker shall, at the request of the Prime Minister, appoint the actual date for the 2026 general election. And according to the Constitution, the general election can take place any time no less than 4 weeks and no later than 6 weeks after the date that the Assembly was dissolved. And that means that there are two possible dates for the Prime Minister to choose from to hold the general elections this year. That is Saturday the 30th of May or Saturday the 6th of June. Power outages continue to plague the island as the Niue Power team attempt to replace old transformers and switchgear. The Department of Utilities have consistently updated the village councils with information about the scheduled power shutdowns to enable the team to replace the transformers. But for the past few days, the unscheduled power outages has become an issue. Yesterday, the island-wide power outage with a fault at Makefu affected radio and television transmission for a few hours. Today, a scheduled shutdown for the lower Alofi South area resulted in a much wider outage affecting all of Alofi, including the main government buildings up here at the upper terrace. The areas frequently affected, however, by the power outages are from Alofi North to Liku. The new Justice Building, which is being funded by the Government of New Zealand, is progressing well. The design team is expected to return to the island next month. New Zealand High Commissioner to the island, His Excellency Mark Gibbs, said that they expect to start the construction phase in the third quarter of this year. Meanwhile, the $20.5 million renewable energy project is expected to be commissioned in May this year. Here's more. BCN News spoke with New Zealand's High Commissioner to Niue, His Excellency Mark Gibb, about the project to build the island's first ever proper court and justice building.
And we're working really closely now with the Government of Niue. Some good consultation last year around what the community, what the stakeholders wanted, and now we're advanced now to getting down to what the concept will finally look like. And so we've had some really good discussions with the Government of Niue around that and honing down on some specifics, hoping to get the design team back here again in March just to fine tune that, and shortly thereafter they will go out to contract, and hopefully we'll have some shovels on the ground in the third quarter of this year.
High Commissioner Gibb confirmed that encompassing traditional Niuean cultural features in the structure was very much part of the consultations with the government and local stakeholders, including the staff of the Justice Department.
Actual renderings I've seen recently, that's certainly been captured, and I know the design team are having, again, good conversations with the Government of Niue around getting some of those cultural aspects into it. And I know Prime Minister himself is very interested in that sort of getting those features up front in the building. So I think we're going to see some good outcomes there.
Meanwhile, the $20.5 million renewable energy project is expected to be commissioned in May this year. The New Zealand government had provided substantial funding to support Niue's goal of 80% renewable energy generation to power the island. Last week, 2 young Niueans left the island on scholarship to New Zealand universities This is a key part of the energy project to train and cultivate future leaders of the energy sector on the island.
Also pleased to be awarded a couple of scholarships this week to two young Niueans so that they can be part of energy management going forward. And so it's really looking good, that project, and on track to commission in May this year, and contribute to getting Niue to 80 to 85% renewable energy. So that's really positive.
As the island awaits the completion of the renewable energy project, power outages continue as the Niue Power team roll out the replacement of old transformers around the island. The Department of Health, in collaboration with the University of Auckland, will be conducting the National Mental Health and Wellbeing Survey this month. The first ever national survey will capture the baseline data on the status of adults' mental health and wellbeing on the island. The Department of Health and the Director, Mrs. Minerva Ikimo-McCurdy, is inviting residents 18 years and over to participate. Here's more. A group of specialists and researchers will arrive to begin the study next week. BCN News spoke with the Director of Health, Minerva Ikimo-McCurdy, about the survey.
Mental health and wellbeing is something that's been spoken about in circles a lot. I know in the community of us here in Niue, it is present, but we're not too sure to what degree it's present in. And at the moment, we treat as they come through the door. We don't have a bespoke, specific core service of mental health, and that's something that we'd like to work towards. We know there are cases, we know there are patients, but we want to be able to put in place a significant proposal to government to say that this is and has to be one of the core services that we are able to deliver. And that begins with awareness within community, it begins with building the workforce behind it, and it also begins with removing the stigma that's placed upon it. Mental health and well-being is very much like any other type of non-communicable disease. It's very much like diabetes, it's very much like cancer. But the downfall of it is that we don't see it as visible as those other types of non-communicable diseases.
One of the challenges of addressing mental illness or mental health concerns is the stigma and the lack of awareness about this key part of any health system.
But in the future, we want to see mental health and well-being as a core service within the department that is addressing all the levels of mental health and well-being, right from primary care level, the really soft issues that we experience on a daily basis. We talk about burnout, but do we understand what does burnout entail? What are some of the interventions that we can put in place to help support or work through some of those soft primary care level mental health concerns? And then we have the extreme, which involves having a psychiatrist on board and involves having medications on board. So there are degrees of these mental health concerns and well-being, and it's really for us to understand at what level is our community at.
And according to Director of Health, Minerva Ikimo-McCurdy, this is also an opportunity to develop the capacity of the health department to provide the necessary primary care for patients with mental health and well-being concerns.
So we do that first interview with you, 10 to 15 minutes with our field workers, and if there are any concerns that is flagged within that first interview, then we move you on to see one of the specialists. And then from there, the specialist can say, actually, we might need to put you on a care plan. And there is no stigma around that. And there shouldn't be any stigma around that. It's very much one of those non-communicable diseases that we need to be strengthening in terms of what are the supports that are in place for it. Our team at the hospital, a part of supporting the community would be to support our workforce. And that means training, that means more education, that means building that workforce to support mental health and well-being for the community.
The survey is available to anyone on the island who is 18 years and older. The survey will involve a short interview with field workers. And the long-awaited public service bill was passed into law by the Niue Assembly at its first meeting of the year held last week. Then Acting Prime Minister Honourable Esa Mona Ainu presented the bill to the House for its second and third reading, saying that the bill is intended to clarify the relationship between the Cabinet, the Public Service Commission and the Public Service. Here's more. A summary provided by the Whanokepule said that the new public service law also provides for the establishment of agencies of government. One notable feature of the Public Service Act 2026 is to define the duties of the Secretary to the Government in addition to the role as defined in the Constitution. And despite hearing whispers about the supposed excessive powers of the role of the Secretary of Government, and often seen as the fifth and unelected member of the Cabinet, the members of the Whanokepule did not debate this issue. The Assembly did have some robust discussions about the role of the Public Service Commission to appoint the heads of diplomatic missions. The bill did not provide for an input from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, a portfolio usually held by the Prime Minister. The Assembly voted not to accept this clause in the bill. The other legislation that was passed by the Assembly last week was to update the sexual offences against children and the use of electronic evidence in existing law. Waitangi Day is a significant day on the New Zealand national calendar. It is a day that is remembered differently by New Zealanders, by the Indigenous Māori and representatives of the Crown or the government. For us here in Niue, we joined our friends at the New Zealand High Commission and the small and growing Māori Niue community to mark this historical day last Saturday at Tapiu. New Zealand High Commissioner Mark Gibb and his lovely wife Elizabeth opened up the grounds of the residence and invited members of the public to join in a fun day last Saturday.
It's good to just bring everyone together and, we remind ourselves about the treaty, but as we found in New Zealand, Waitangi Day is about a celebration, and what better way to celebrate it with, your mokapuna, with your youngsters, but celebrate it as a family.
There were games and small competitions like the gumboots throwing competition, the tug of war and the slippery slides for the young and old. Speaker Hema Douglas had a go at the boot throwing competition. Australia's High Commissioner Paul Harrington joined in the fun activities, which required a bit of diplomacy sometimes.
And remember, we did go through, lots of discussion, but at the end of the day, you bring people together. And that's what the treaty does, it brings people together. So we bring family together, we have a bit of a celebration. We'll have, as you saw, we had a few laughs, bit of competition, and, competition in Niue is always good to watch. So I really enjoyed the day, and I was really pleased to be able to host it.
Prime Minister Dalton Tangilangi and Ministers Esa Mona Ainu and Minister Sonia Talangi were there with their families. It was a fun day for families, a day to come together to support our Kiwi whānau and friends on the island. And it was a fun day last Saturday. Thank you for the invitation. To end our news tonight, tomorrow, Friday the 13th of February, is World Radio Day. The media landscape has certainly changed, especially with social media, and now artificial intelligence is very much part of that media landscape. But radio remains a valuable source of information for many isolated communities, and for us, especially during disaster emergencies. Radio was first established here in Niue in August of 1967 and remains on air until today as Radio Sunshine, providing daily news, information, community announcements and entertainment to the residents of the island. A unique feature of Radio Sunshine is the morning devotion, when listeners can listen to the Word of God and to start our day with a word of prayer. This is a voluntary service provided by the various religious denominations on the island, led by the Ecclesia Keresiano Niue. Tomorrow, we recognize the volunteers who take time to come on Radio Sunshine. We also acknowledge our radio announcers and our radio technicians who make sure that radio is always on air. Happy World Radio Day, team, and thank you for all that you do. Happy World Radio Day for tomorrow. BCN News will be back with you on Tuesday next week with our bulletin in Wangahau Niue. But from us here and the team, good night, Monuine Po and Nonofua.